To tackle the stubborn economic stagnation and low inflation, Abe introduced his signature economic policies known as Abenomics.
Positive ones. Because if that doesn't happen, what I always will say, and what I predict in the future is going to happen, is that Japan is going to have no choice but to hire a mass amount of immigrants. And Konnichiwa minasan, kyo desu. So in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to the legacy of Shinzo Abe. I am definitely looking forward to reacting to this video. So without further ado, ikimashou.
In 1987, Donald Trump, who was then this flamboyant millionaire, ran full-page ads in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Boston Globe, criticizing Japan for its trade imbalance with the United States. Japan's economy was then the envy of other nations, rising from the ruins of World War II to become the world's second largest economy.
Many Japanese seem to be so busy from Monday to Saturday making electronic goods, there's only one day left on which they can actually go out and buy them.
All that came to a halt in the 1990s when it started experiencing a prolonged recession, which economists have dubbed the lost decade. In the years since, Japan has experienced sluggish growth under a revolving door of prime ministers. Despite attempts by Shinzo Abe, who was Japan's longest-serving prime minister, to revive the country's economy, poverty is on the rise. So, can Japan escape its prolonged economic slump?
That's a very good question.
After about 2 decades of economic stagnation, Abe's second term as prime minister brought hope that he could steer the country out of recession. By then, China had overtaken Japan to become the world's second largest economy. To tackle the stubborn economic stagnation and low inflation, Abe introduced his signature economic policies known as Abenomics. These came in the form of monetary easing, fiscal spending, and structural reforms of Japan's labor force, which was shrinking and aging. Japan has been facing a population decline since 2011 because of a low birth rate. In 2019, there were around 500,000 more deaths than births, as the number of babies born fell by 5.9%. With an aging population and a shrinking workforce, unemployment levels have been low. Despite a tight labor market, the earning power of Japanese workers has remained stagnant. In fact, the average wages in Japan has remained below $40,000 since 1991. This has its roots in Japan's peculiar employment system, which is built on a set of principles to promote loyalty between employers and employees. Employees sign long-term contracts with companies and are motivated to remain because of a wage structure that prioritizes seniority over merit. This practice, known in Japanese as shushin-koyo, dates back to World War II and has become ingrained in the Japanese culture, especially in larger companies. While this scheme made sense in the post-war period when there was a shortage of skilled labor, this relatively stable but rigid employment system led to an emphasis on job security rather than productivity and performance. As a result, Japanese firms were reluctant to increase employees' salaries, especially during economic downturns, because they were expected to retain the employees for a long period. Japan's aging population also meant that senior executives were unlikely to move anytime soon, providing little to no career progression and wage increases for younger employees. To address these labor woes, Abe tried to reform the country's labor system, such as relaxing immigration laws, easing Japan's brutal work culture, and encouraging more women to join the workforce. While Abe managed to increase female participation in the workforce to an all-time high, many were on low-paying odd jobs. Among senior and leadership positions, only 15% were held by women, while Japanese women earned about half of what men got on average. Besides deeper cultural issues in a patriarchal society, the lifetime employment scheme also discouraged firms from hiring women into their workforce full-time to avoid commitment costs such as pension funds. To maintain their competitive edge, some Japanese companies started converting their full-time employees to part-time workers. In 2019, the number of non-regular workers rose by 2.1%, outpacing the 0.5% growth among regular employees. Despite record employment under Abenomics, Japan's poverty rate is the second highest among the group of 7 nations at 15.7% and above the OECD average. While large Japanese firms have benefited under Abenomics, buoyed by a weak yen and a booming stock market, these corporate profits did not trickle down to households. Abe's best efforts to reverse the tepid economic growth, including pressuring the country's central bank to adopt unconventional measures in the form of asset purchases and yield curve control, have produced mixed results. With the COVID-19 pandemic crippling its economy further, Japan is quickly running out of options to boost its economy. In the second quarter of 2020, its GDP shrank by 28.1%.
Yikes.
The country's next Prime Minister, Yoshihide Suga, is likely to carry on where Abe left off. Abe may be gone, but Abenomics appears here to stay. Whether it will lift Japan out of its decades-long doldrums and reverse the poverty trap remains to be seen.
Definitely, I can see the attempt made by Abe to change Japan, but I think there's more to it than just that. I believe Shinzo Abe did his absolute best to try to push Japan out of this state of stagnation and, growing rates of unemployment. And I think he helped the best he could, but I don't think what he was doing is just enough. It's like what we say in the United States, that the president can't change the whole country by himself. It was going to take a cultural revolution to really see a country move forward. One man can start a trend, he can do what he can, but it takes everybody to do a little bit of their part to really push the country, and in this case, Japan, forward. What I always say is that if you want to be successful in any area of life, you have to look at people who have been successful in that area. For example, if you as a country want to see your country succeed, you should probably look to other countries that are doing better than yours and try to adopt a lot of their economic strategies, their style of government, and the culture to help your own. For one thing, I don't think that having more of a seniority type of culture than basically hiring on merit, I think it cripples Japan, because just because you're older than me doesn't mean that you're more productive than I am. And you can have a young guy who does the job 10 times better than you, but because he's young, you will choose the older person over him. And in that circumstance, you're kind of missing out on a worker who would help the company even more. What I believe needs to happen is I think that Japan's young people, the youth, need to develop a spirit of entrepreneurship to start businesses and kind of formulate a business practice that's similar to the United States. I think what also needs to happen with changes of policies is also changes of culture, because like I always say, politics is downstream from culture, meaning that whatever the cultural beliefs of the people are and what they follow will affect the politics. What I think needs to happen is that more young people need to start businesses. They need to hire based off merit, not by seniority, and change a lot of that toxic work culture that happens in Japan and adopt more customs from the West. Of course, the positive ones. Because if that doesn't happen, what I always will say and what I predict in the future is going to happen is that Japan is going to have no choice but to hire a mass amount of immigrants. And I've said this on countless videos. I think that is a problem within itself, because at this point, I'm not too sure how well the Japanese would receive more foreigners entering their country. So basically, I believe if those things can be implanted in Japanese culture, I think Japan has a better chance of getting out the sense of stagnation and poverty and really improving its economic growth. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Honto, arigatou gozaimasu. Minna, kiyotsukete. Ja ne.